On an ordinary morning, every single person on Earth blacks out at the exact same moment. 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Planes go down. Cars pile into each other. Surgeons collapse over open patients. And when the entire planet wakes up, everyone is carrying the same impossible souvenir. A memory of the future. The same date, 6 months ahead. Some people saw love. Some saw betrayal. One FBI agent saw himself being hunted by masked gunmen in his own office. And one man saw nothing at all, which might be the worst vision of them all. But here's the catch. Knowing your future doesn't mean you can outrun it. Yeah, that's the ride we're going on today. FlashForward aired on ABC in 2009, and it was the network's big swing at the next great sci-fi mystery. One season, 22 episodes, canceled on a cliffhanger so brutal that fans are still mad about it more than a decade later. And honestly, once you hear how it ends, you'll be mad too. The setup is one of the cleanest hooks in television history. The whole world blacks out for 2 minutes and 17 seconds, and everyone sees their own life on the same future date, April 29th, 2010. That's it. That's the show. Except it's also a global disaster story, a marriage drama, a conspiracy thriller, and a philosophy debate about free will, all wearing a network procedural's clothing. Our way into all of it is the FBI's Los Angeles field office, where a team of agents gets handed the single biggest case in human history. What caused the blackout? Will it happen again? And the question that eats every character alive: do these visions have to come true? The show builds an investigation called Mosaic, a giant database of what the entire planet saw, and then starts pulling threads. Some threads lead to physics, some lead to murder, some lead to a man walking calmly through a stadium full of unconscious people, wide awake. It's ambitious, it's messy, it's occasionally ridiculous, and when it cooks, it really cooks. Let's get into it. We open on FBI Special Agent Mark Benford crawling out of his overturned car to find all of Los Angeles in flames and chaos. Then the show rewinds 4 hours to show us the ordinary morning that got destroyed. Mark is an LA agent and a recovering alcoholic, the kind of guy who keeps his badge in a safe next to a note from his wife reading, "You're a crappy husband. I hate you," which sounds bad until you realize it's a joke between them. He tells his sleeping wife Olivia he hates her too. All tenderness. That's the marriage. Sarcasm as a love language. Remember that, because this show is about to stress test it into powder. Olivia is a surgeon. Their daughter Charlie watches cartoons. The babysitter Nicole shows up, Mark's AA sponsor. Aaron Stark, a utility lineman whose daughter Tracy died serving in Afghanistan, speaks at a meeting about getting back only 37 pounds of his daughter's remains. The show is not subtle about loading everyone up with baggage before it pulls the trigger. And then, it pulls the trigger. Mark and his partner Dimitri No are in a high-speed chase with terror suspects. A young doctor named Bryce Varley is standing on a pier, about to end his life. Olivia is walking into surgery. Aaron is climbing a utility pole, and the world just stops. Everyone, everywhere, out cold for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. During the blackout, Mark gets a vision. He's in his office at night, 6 months from now, drinking from a flask, staring at a bulletin board covered in clues, writing the words, "Who else knows?" on a calendar that reads April 29th, 2010. Then red laser sights cut through the room. Masked gunmen are coming to kill him, and one of them has 3 stars tattooed on his forearm. Remember the tattoo. Then everyone wakes up to the wreckage, pileups, downed planes, fires. There is, and I cannot stress enough that this is real, a kangaroo hopping through downtown Los Angeles. Nobody explains the kangaroo. The kangaroo simply is. At home, little Charlie tells her babysitter, "I dreamt there are no more good days." Cool, great, love that from a child. The visions start getting compared. Mark saw himself investigating the blackout. Janice Hawk, a fellow agent, saw herself 17 weeks pregnant, which is strange because she doesn't have a boyfriend. Agent Al Gough was in London with a Scotland Yard liaison named Fiona Banks. And here's the kicker. She had the exact same vision from her own side. These things match up. They corroborate, which means they might be real. Aaron saw his dead daughter Tracy, alive. Bryce woke up on the pier, gun never fired, and took the interrupted moment as a sign. And now he's a man on fire for the future. And Olivia saw herself in her own living room saying, "Hey, honey," to a man who is very much not Mark. Dimitri saw nothing, just darkness. And the obvious read on that is the one he can't say out loud, that 6 months from now, Dimitri No is dead. Mark's boss, Stanford Wedek, puts him, Dimitri, and Janice on the case, and Mark recites the clues from his vision board. The investigation is called Mosaic. A name on a card, D. Gibbons. A photo of a burned doll. The words, "Blue Hand." and on his wrist, a friendship bracelet, the kind kids make. That night, Charlie gives her dad a present, a handmade friendship bracelet, identical to the one in his vision. Remember the friendship bracelet, it's coming back, and not in a heartwarming way. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the father of a young patient Olivia saved finally shows up. His name is Lloyd Simcoe. He's the man from her vision. Because apparently, even a global catastrophe has to obey network drama rules about small worlds. And then the closer. Janice grinds through hours of security footage from around the planet, and every camera shows the same thing. Everyone down for 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Except one. At a stadium in Detroit, the entire crowd is unconscious, and one solitary figure gets up and walks calmly out through the concourse. Janice says it for all of us. Who the hell is that? And why are they awake? Children lying motionless on a playground while Ring Around the Rosie plays. Relax, it's just kids playing the blackout game, recreating the apocalypse at recess, which is somehow creepier than the actual apocalypse. Charlie refuses to play, shoves a kid, and bolts. This child saw something, and she is not talking. At the office, Washington has noticed that the LA field office crowned itself lead investigator of the biggest event in human history. Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security Anastasia Markham shows up dripping skepticism, right up until Wadek shows her the stadium footage. The walking man gets a name now, Suspect Zero. Video forensics says male, 5'8", 150 pounds. Markham's new hope is to catch him before he causes another event. File that phrase away. Another event. Then, a woman named Dee Dee Gibbons walks in, panicked because her vision featured an angry phone call about pigeons and her screaming at the caller to talk to the FBI. Her credit card was just used in 2 states at once, including a town in Utah, literally named Pigeon. So Mark and Dimitri fly out, stake out a bus station with the local sheriff, and find an abandoned doll factory that matches the burned doll photo from Mark's vision board. Inside, hanging dolls, booby traps playing Ring Around the Rosie, and a man surrounded by computer towers submerged in liquid with a chess game on screen. He drops lighters into the cases, recites poetry while everything burns, and shoots Sheriff Keegan, who dies. He escapes by tossing grenades into the fire. The man they will come to call D. Gibbons leaves behind exactly 2 things, a cell phone and a white queen chess piece. Remember the white queen. The phone turns out to be the real prize. During the blackout, it made a call to someone at that Detroit stadium. The cyber ghost in a doll factory and the man who stayed awake know each other. Mark, meanwhile, ends the episode with 2 gut punches. First, a quiet scene where he stares into his fireplace, reliving the vision of himself drinking, while Charlie's friendship bracelet burns on a log. He's trying to delete the future 1 clue at a time. Second, Dimitri gets an anonymous call from a woman who tells him she read an intelligence briefing in her vision. Dimitri will be murdered on March 15, 2010. And then Charlie finally says what she's been holding. Dee Gibbons is a bad man. Her dad's prime suspect, named by a 7-year-old who has never heard the name. Sleep tight. A convicted Nazi war criminal named Rudolf Geyer is sitting in a Munich prison, claiming he has information about the blackout, and he'll only talk to Mark Benford, whose photo wall apparently included Geyer's face. So Mark and Janice fly to Germany to make a deal with an actual Nazi, which Janice correctly hates. Geyer's whole act is numerology and smugness. He points out that the Hebrew letters of Kabbalah add up to 137, the number of seconds the world went dark. Cute. His actual vision is mundane. He's being released and processed through customs in America, telling the agent he has a murder to thank for his freedom. The murder? Crows. Dead crows outside his window. Mark trades a Nazi's freedom for birds, and it feels as bad as it sounds. Except the birds are real. Crow populations worldwide cratered on Blackout Day, and when Janice digs for any precedent, she finds one. Somalia, 1991, the Ganwar region. Reports of every crow dropping dead and unconfirmed mass unconsciousness. The episode ends in a flashback. A Somali boy watching crows fall out of the sky, then finding his entire village laid out cold, and on the horizon, a tall tower venting white smoke. The blackout has happened before. Somebody did this on purpose, and they did a test run 18 years ago. Around the edges, the personal stories tighten. Dimitri's fiancée Zoe arrives, glowing, because her vision was their wedding. Dimitri looks her in the eye and lies that he saw it too. Aaron gets Mark to bend the rules and exhume Tracy's remains to test the DNA, certain his vision means she's alive. The tests say it's her. It's Tracy. Aaron's hope dies in a lab report. Hold that thought though, because this show has plans. A bus full of people plunges into a lake during the blackout, and a man rides it out underwater, totally calm, because his vision told him he'll be fine. That's the episode's case. Ned checks into the hospital, announces that in 6 months he'll be confident and happy, and that in his vision he was, and I quote the man, a black man. Bryce, doctor of the future, figures out that's an actual symptom. Addison's disease changes skin pigment, and it also means routine surgery could kill him. Olivia, doctor of the here and now, refuses to treat a search engine result as a diagnosis. Ned flatlines on the table. Olivia swallows her pride and treats the Addisons, and the patient lives. Score 1 for the visions, which is exactly what Olivia didn't want on the scoreboard. Because that's the real fight of this episode. Faith versus refusal. Bryce believes the future is a gift. Olivia is burying her head in the sand because her own future has another man's face on it. Meanwhile, the FBI's detained terror suspect, Alda Herzog, finally says something interesting. She asks Mark if he knows what a black swan is, the event nobody saw coming that rewrites all the rules, and tells him he isn't willing to commit to finding real answers. Cryptic prisoner wisdom, the leading cause of FBI over time. Nicole, the babysitter, resurfaces with her own confession. In her vision, she was being drowned, held under by a man, and she felt like she was being punished. She asks a priest how you ask forgiveness for something you haven't done yet, which is the entire show in one sentence from a teenager. And then, the hook. Lloyd Simcoe, hospital dad, sweet widower, gets a phone call from a man named Simon. "Get used to me," Simon says, "because we are responsible for the greatest single disaster in human history." "I'm sorry, what?" This one opens with Mark, Dimitri, Weddick, and Agent Vreed getting into a car in a Washington, D.C. parking garage, and then a black SUV rams them and someone puts a rocket-propelled grenade into the wreck. Boom. Then the show rewinds 39 hours, because of course it does. The reason they're in D.C. is a Senate hearing into the blackout, chaired by Senator Joyce Clemente, who treats Mosaic like a seance with a federal budget. The hearing itself is a parade of official desperation. The Surgeon General has ruled out drugs in the water. The SETI guy floats aliens out loud in Congress. The CIA director blames China, his actual reasoning being that China was asleep when it happened and suffered fewer deaths. "The blackout happened at 2 in the morning there, sir." That's the point, he says. Government in action. Mark testifies and gets shredded because he has a problem he's been hiding. He can only remember about 30 seconds of his vision, and he can't explain why. We know why. He knows why. He was drunk in it, and the memory swims. He finally confesses it to Weddick in a bar, while Dimitri and Vrida butcher karaoke, which is the most human this show ever gets. Weddick, meanwhile, plays the single coldest card in the season. His old friend, President Dave Segovia, offers him a cabinet post, Director of Homeland Security. Weddick declines by sliding a photo across the table, the president with a woman named Renee on his lap, a woman Weddick located through Mosaic, funding secured. The president immediately picks up a phone and tells someone he has a problem that needs taken care of. The next night, the garage attack happens, and the agents shoot their way out of it. And it wasn't one hit. The same night in LA, 2 men ambush Janice. She kills both attackers, takes a bullet in the abdomen, and bleeds out in the street, alone. In the same episode where she finally met a woman, Maya, who looked her up on Mosaic and got excited about her pregnant future. Someone just tried to decapitate the Mosaic investigation in one coordinated night. Oh, and Olivia gets an anonymous text. Mark was drinking in his FlashForward. Somebody out there is aiming a sniper rifle at this marriage. Meet Simon Campos properly. He's on a night train to LA, picking up a stranger by telling her to search the internet for quantum physicist genius. And it works, because the search result is him, half naked. He explains Schrodinger's cat, takes her to bed, and then, in the afterglow, casually mentions that in his vision, he was choking the life out of a man, and that it felt deeply satisfying. He's charming, brilliant, and radioactive, a man who could talk his way into anywhere and absolutely should not be let in. When he ambushes Lloyd in his car, Lloyd shuts him down with one line. "Our experiment killed 20 million people, Simon." So now we know what the greatest single disaster in human history meant. And we know who Lloyd Simcoe really is. Janice survives. Barely. Olivia stabilizes her. But the damage means her chances of carrying a child are all but gone. The woman who saw herself pregnant gets told the future is medically impossible. The show lets her grieve a baby she never even wanted, and it's quietly one of the best scenes in the season. Dimitri and Al chase the people who shot her. A blacklight at the morgue reveals a blue hand symbol on one of the attackers, straight off Mark's vision board. Blue hand decals lead them down Baltimore Street to a house full of bodies under bloody sheets. One of the dead has a passport, a Scottish man named Ian Rutherford. Al goes pale. In his London vision, he was working the Rutherford case, a case that didn't exist. It does now. The future is assembling itself around them, piece by piece. It's also Halloween, so Mark sees 3 trick-or-treaters wearing the exact masks of the gunman from his vision and chases a teenager through a cemetery. The kid got it at a discount store. The future also does jump scares. Then the bomb drops at home. Little Dylan Simcoe, Lloyd's son, slips out of the hospital, rides a bus across town, and walks into the Benford house saying, "It's my house too." He knows it from his vision. Lloyd comes to collect him, sees the living room, and realizes this is the house from his flash forward. Then Olivia walks in, and he understands that she's the woman who called him honey. Everyone now knows everything, and Mark is standing right there watching it land. The fallout conversation is brutal. Mark admits he was drinking in his vision. Olivia admits she got an anonymous text about it before he confessed. He swears he won't drink. She tells him it isn't about the drinking, it's about trust, and they don't have it anymore. 6 episodes in, and the future is already winning. I'm going to tell you up front, this one hurts. It opens with Al Guff narrating a letter to a woman named Celia. He doesn't know her last name. He doesn't know where she lives. He knows she has 2 young boys, maybe twins, and he knows she didn't have a flash forward. Because in Al's vision, he got a phone call in that London office. An attorney telling him Celia had been taken off life support, that her sons were going to foster care, and Al heard himself say, "I killed her." A future where a good man accidentally kills a stranger, and her kids become orphans. That's what Al has been carrying since episode 1, while everyone else compared wedding visions. Meanwhile, the body count from the Blue Hand House leads somewhere stranger. All 3 of the dead, including Ian Rutherford, died by their own hands. They were part of a movement called Already Ghosts. People who saw nothing on April 29th and concluded their futures were already over. Fiona Banks flies in from London the moment she hears Rutherford's name, because the case from her shared vision with Al just officially opened. The investigators trace the ghost to an underground club, Blue Hand, where members dare death in increasingly ugly ways, while a rotating master of ceremonies called Dr. Reno presides. Mark, Dimitri, and Al infiltrate it, and the admission ritual involves a revolver passed around the table. Al takes that bet without blinking, and you realize this man has already made a decision about the future that nobody else in the room has noticed. The Reno of the night turns out to be a school teacher named Jeff Slingerland. Remember that name. It's going to come back in the worst way. There's light in this episode too, which makes the ending crueler. A Marine named Mike Willingham shows up at Aaron's work to return Tracy's pocket knife, the same knife Aaron handed her in his vision. Then Mike comes back with the truth. He watched Tracy die in Afghanistan, ambushed not by insurgents, but by Jericho, a private military contractor. And then, that evening, Aaron comes home and finds Tracy sitting at his dining room table, missing a leg, alive. The DNA said she was dead, the witness said she was dead, and she's eating dinner in his house. Aaron's impossible vision just became the most honest thing in his life. And then Al. He leaves a note for Dimitri, the letter to Celia. By the time Dimitri understands what he's reading, Al is on the roof. His friends get there. They plead. Al has done the math. If he's not alive, he can't be in London in April, the phone call can't happen, and a woman he's never met gets to raise her sons. He tells them he's found a way to change the game, and he steps off the building. I'm not going to make a joke here. Al Guff dies to prove the future can be beaten, and his letter ends with the line the whole series orbits. The future is unwritten. Make the most of that. Al's death goes public, and the world reacts exactly how you'd hope and exactly how you'd fear. Celia herself shares the story, and suddenly pundits everywhere are saying it out loud. The future can be changed. One agent's last act becomes the whole planet's loophole. Janice comes back to work post-surgery and tries to resign, reasoning that her life makes no sense anymore. Wadek refuses the paperwork with the best line of the episode, asking if she's really going to let a bullet decide whether or not she brings a baby into this world. Wadek spends this entire series quietly being the show's best character, and nobody talks about it. The main plot is a murder caught on a cell phone. A man named Neil Porofsky gets robbed of a case and shot, and the gunman has a 3-star tattoo on his forearm. Mark's masked killers just stepped out of his vision and into the present day, 5 months early. The witness, Ingrid, becomes bait in an FBI trap that goes sideways in a way that only makes sense if someone inside the bureau is feeding information out. So now there's a mole in the field office. Add it to the pile, and And then the show peels back the curtain for one scene. No FBI, just the bad guys. The stolen case gets delivered to a bearded man in a garage. Inside it, 6 rings, engraved with the Greek letter Alpha. The man says there are supposed to be 7, quotes the Manhattan Project, shoots the courier dead, and strolls off. 6 rings, supposed to be 7. Meanwhile, Janice spots an enhanced detail in the stadium footage. Suspect 0 is wearing a ring. The man who stayed awake is wearing the same hardware the tattoo men are killing people to collect. The conspiracy finally has a shape, and the shape is jewelry. The episode title comes from The Lloyd and Simon Show. Lloyd emails their physicist colleagues, urging them to go public about the experiment and take responsibility for the blackout. Simon objects, so they settle it the mature, scientific way, a game of Texas Hold'em. Winner decides the fate of the secret. Simon plays brilliantly all night and gets 4 of a kind in the last hand, and Lloyd beats him with a straight flush, because all those card tricks he's been practicing for Dylan apparently weren't just for Dylan. The world is about to get a very interesting press conference. Also, Tracy finally talks. She knows the man Aaron handed an envelope to in his vision, a field medic named Kamir, the man who saved her. Aaron's vision is a destination. This is the Bryce episode, and it reorders everything you thought about him. 4 weeks before the blackout, Bryce sits in an oncologist's office hearing the words stage 4 renal cell carcinoma. Terminal. That's what put him on the pier. Not drama, not mystery, just a young doctor who couldn't face a slow death after watching his father go through one. Then the flash forward gave him a reason to stay. In his vision, he's in a restaurant, happy, and a Japanese woman sits across from him in a booth. He takes her hand. He looks at her tattoo. They smile at each other like the rest of the world doesn't exist. He has never met her. He's been drawing her ever since, and a patient finally recognizes the logo on the shirt the woman wears. A restaurant near Tokyo called Sushi Arahita. Cut to Tokyo, and the show does something lovely. It gives the dream woman her own life. Her name is Keiko. She's a brilliant engineer who lists Jimi Hendrix among her role models in a job interview, lands the corporate position her family wanted, and discovers her actual job is serving tea to men. Her vision showed her the same restaurant booth, the same hands, the same happiness. So she gets the tattoo from her vision on purpose, quits the job her mother calls her future, and walks out of her parents' house chasing a man whose name she doesn't know. 2 strangers on opposite sides of the planet, both certain the other is real. Bryce flies to Tokyo with his drawings. A cook recognizes her, but Keiko's mother looks at the sketch of her own daughter and says she doesn't know her because she suspects exactly who this foreigner is. Bryce flies home defeated, and the show twists the knife. Keiko is on the same airplane, rows away, neither of them knowing. This show treats coincidence like a contact sport. Back in LA, the plot grinds forward. The NSA's enhanced stadium footage shows an alpha symbol on Suspect Zero's ring, the same alpha from the case of rings, and the NSA red flags Dimitri because his anonymous death call was professionally concealed, which means his mystery caller has serious resources. Vrida strips the recording down to background noise and identifies it, the Symphony of Lights in Hong Kong Harbor. Wedek says absolutely not. Mark and Dimitri immediately start packing, in the grand FBI tradition of treating direct orders as gentle suggestions. At home, the text message about Mark's drinking is rotting everything it touches. Mark accuses Aaron of sending it and torches that friendship. He accuses Wedek and gets thrown out of his office. 2 scenes. 2 relationships damaged, 0 answers, and Aaron has his own spiral. Tracy is drinking herself to sleep every night, an alcoholic just like her old man, and he has to watch it happen at his own dinner table. The title is a serial number. Hold on. Mark and Dimitri land in Hong Kong against direct orders and get met at the airport by Marshal Vogel, a smiling government type who already knows everything about their trip and advises them to fly home while they still have careers. They don't. They track Dimitri's caller through linguistics and a smoker's voice to a restaurant where a woman named Nadra Udaya dines under armed guard, and Nadra reluctantly gives Dimitri the detail that breaks the show open. She tells him who fires the 3 shots that kill him on March 15th, Mark Benford, with his own service weapon, a Sig Sauer serial number A561984. Dimitri's best friend is his murderer. The confrontation collapses. Vogel, who turns out to be CIA, bails them out, and Wedek strips Mark's badge over the phone. Mark hands his gun to Dimitri at the airport and promises he will never shoot him, which would be more comforting if this show hadn't spent 10 episodes proving the future doesn't care about promises. And in her office, Nadra turns to a man in the shadows and addresses him directly. D. Gibbons is in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, Lloyd cashes in his poker winnings. At a televised press conference, the National Linear Accelerator Project admits their plasma Wakefield experiment fired at exactly the moment the world went dark. And Lloyd says the words, "We believe our experiment caused the global blackout." The room detonates detonates. A grieving woman grabs a security officer's gun and tries to shoot him on stage. Simon is furious, and when Lloyd won't play by his script, Simon tells him plainly, "Then we're at war." Then Simon walks into the FBI and pulls his favorite trick, being indispensable. He tells Wedek the experiment didn't actually cause the blackout, offers to prove it, and gets shown satellite photos of the Somalia tower. He identifies it instantly because he designed it. A pulsed laser concept he hasn't even published, the kind of thing that should win a Nobel Prize in 2 years. The photo is from 1991, a year before he thought of it. Watching Simon Campos discover that someone out-Simoned him is genuinely delicious. The someone has a name, the FBI's chess-playing fugitive, D. Gibbons. Zoe, meanwhile, gets the episode's quiet devastation. At a memorial service, she sees a white rose and finally recognizes her wedding vision for what it is. The beach, the gathered families, the flowers. It's Dimitri's funeral. She's been planning her wedding on the site of his memorial, and the ending is a heist. Lloyd arranges to transfer Dylan to a safer hospital, and the ambulance crew turns out to be fake. They shoot a guard, threaten Olivia, and drive away with Lloyd in the back. The man who told the world the truth lasts about a day before the world comes to collect him. The blackout didn't just create victims, it created believers. A window washer named Timothy survived the event dangling from a snagged safety line, saw himself leading a flock in his vision, and founded a movement called Sanctuary. Nicole, still haunted by her drowning vision, starts circling it. The Mosaic investigation is now a multi-agency circus, with CIA man Vogel planted at the head of the table and everyone hating it. Lloyd's kidnapping gets worse. The original ambulance crew turns up dead in a boxcar. And when Simon is sent to crack Lloyd's laptop, masked men grab him too. Except, and keep this in your back pocket, things with Simon are rarely what they look like. In a grungy basement, we meet the kidnapper, a cigar-chewing heavy named Flosso, who introduces himself as, in his words, a villain. He flicks cigar ash into Simon's eye to prove it. But here's the actual revelation. Flosso tells Lloyd their experiment didn't cause the blackout, it only amplified it. Something else made the world go dark, and the people paying Flosso want to know exactly what the physicists measured. Lloyd, mid-captivity, scribbles a help note on a crown cheese steak flyer and tries to wedge it in a window. It blows away. Remember the flyer anyway. Mark, suspended and twitchy, gets benched into therapy, where Dr. Callie Langer diagnoses him with a god complex and offers him a drug treatment to recover the memories he drowned in Vision whiskey. Mark, the man who refuses help on principle, finally takes it, and inside the enhanced memory, he sees his board clearly. Lloyd's help note is pinned to it, and he remembers a phone call from that night, ending with him saying, "Go to hell, Lloyd." In the future, Mark and Lloyd talk, and the call contained something enormous, the knowledge that there's going to be another blackout. He reports it to Wedek, who points out the obvious nightmare. You can't warn the world about a second blackout when you don't know the date. All you do is light the planet on fire early. Also, Charlie looks at the mosaic wall photos her dad keeps at home and tells him to solve the puzzle like a jigsaw. Corners first, out of the mouths of babes, actual investigative methodology. The hunt for Lloyd nearly kills half the cast. The task force finds the stolen ambulance, and it's wired to blow, triggered by their own radio frequencies. At least one agent dies. Vogel floats the season's scariest idea. The kidnappers saw Mark's investigation in their visions, so they've been playing 6 months ahead this whole time. The FBI is in a chess game where the other side has already seen the board. Then Mark earns his badge back the old-fashioned way. He spots a crown cheese steak flyer in the wild, remembers the one from his enhanced memory, and finds the restaurant's old location, a burned-out shell with an 8-ball spray painted on the glass. In his vision, he told Lloyd, "I wish you were standing behind the 8-ball." So Mark, no warrant, no backup, no badge, reverses his car through the storefront at high speed. There's a gunfight in the rubble. Mark beats one kidnapper unconscious. Simon shoots the other one dead, and Lloyd comes out alive, staring at the help note pamphlet Mark shows him like the universe just signed its name. Except watch the ambulance Simon leaves in because Flosso is sitting inside it. They know each other. Simon has been working with the kidnappers all along, and when he tries to quit, Flosso shows him the FBI's stadium footage of Suspect Zero, and then we get the flashback that rearranges the whole series. The day of the blackout, Simon is at his father's funeral when a driver hands him a baseball ticket. A voice on the phone, D. Gibbons, directs him to a stadium seat where a ring is hidden in a popcorn tub. "Put it on," says the voice. Simon does. The world blacks out. Simon doesn't. Simon Campos is the man who walked through the stadium. The smartest guy in every room has been Suspect Zero since episode 1. And the FBI just rescued him on camera like a hero. He caps the episode by faking a penicillin allergy and slipping federal custody entirely, because of course he does. there's a gentler thread too. Nicole takes her drowning vision to Timothy at Sanctuary, who offers another reading. Maybe the water is a baptism. Maybe what she saw was sacrifice instead of punishment. And Bryce meets Nicole's mother, whose mind is slipping and who is gluing pennies from 1989 to the wall because that's the year Nicole was born. A tribute wall, 1 penny at a time. The episode ends with all 3 of them gluing pennies together, and honestly, in a show this paranoid, it plays like a miracle. So here's where we stand at the halfway mark. The blackout was engineered, and it's happened before. Somalia, 1991, towers and dead crows. Lloyd's experiment only amplified it, which means the real trigger is still out there. There's going to be a second blackout, and nobody knows when. Dee Gibbons is a chess-obsessed ghost who recruited Simon, designed the Somalia Tower, and is currently in Hong Kong. Simon is Suspect 0, awake during the blackout thanks to an alpha ring, 1 of 7, and the FBI has no idea. Dimitri has 90 days to live, and the murder weapon belongs to his partner. Mark and Olivia's marriage is held together with tape, while Destiny keeps shoving Lloyd through their front door. Al is gone, and his death proved the visions can be broken, which is the only hope anyone has. Aaron's dead daughter is alive and hiding from a military contractor called Jericho. Janice is supposed to be pregnant by April and physically can't be. Bryce is dying of cancer and in love with a stranger from a vision who is currently wandering Los Angeles looking for him. There's a mole in the FBI. The masked gunmen from Mark's vision are real, and they're collecting rings. And the show still has 10 episodes left. This is the Aaron episode, and the show finally pays off 2 seasons worth of setup it crammed into half a year. We get his history in pieces. 15 years ago, he's in prison, and a guard makes lurid comments about teenage Tracy during visiting hours until Aaron breaks his face. 2 years ago, soldiers knock on his door with a folded flag, and he ends up on the floor, then at the bottom of a bottle, smashing furniture in grief. Aaron Stark is a man who has already buried his daughter once. He's not built to do it twice, which is why the present tense is terrifying. Tracy, drinking hard and hunted, begs him to stop digging into Jericho. He doesn't, because stopping was never in this man's toolbox. His co-worker Mike, the Marine who returned the knife, figures out Tracy is alive, and within hours of Aaron confirming it, Tracy gets snatched from the house, unconscious, packed into a box. Aaron realizes Mike sold them out, lures him to a deserted yard, and breaks his arm getting answers. Then he poses as a power company guy, bugs the phone of Jericho's CEO, and listens to the call that confirms it. Tracy has arrived at Kandahar, followed by an order about Aaron himself. Get rid of the father. Aaron versus a private army, and the private army just made it personal in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, Zoe learns what Hong Kong revealed and goes straight at Mark in his own living room, asking if he has some deep, dark secret worth killing someone over. She and Dimitri also have the obvious good idea, just destroy the gun. They go to the evidence locker to do it. The gun is gone. Somebody walked Dimitri's murder weapon out of an FBI building. Oh, and Lloyd, under questioning, finally gives Dee Gibbons a real name. He knew him years ago as Dyson Frost, a physicist who took credit for Lloyd's research. Frost wrote a paper on the mirror test, the experiment about whether animals recognize themselves, conducted on elephants and on crows. The man who keeps killing crows built his career studying them. Remember the name Dyson Frost, because he stops being a ghost very soon. Somalia. The show has been pointing here since episode 3, and it delivers. Dimitri, Janice, Vogel, and Simon fly into the Ganwar region posing as Red Panda aid workers, and they're immediately ambushed by a warlord's militia. The leader, Abdi, recognizes Simon from the televised confession, which is the problem with confessing to the greatest disaster in human history on live TV. And then the reveal lands. Abdi is the goat herder boy from 1991, the sole survivor of the first blackout, all grown up and heavily armed. Abdi's vision showed him addressing a stadium as the leader of Somalia, and he's been collecting guns to make it happen by force. Janice, in the episode's smartest scene, pulls up Mosaic testimonies and shows him that other people's visions of that day describe him as a peacemaker ending the civil war, not a conqueror. She talks a warlord out of a war using a website. The FBI should put her on every assignment. Then they enter the tower, and the show gets genuinely chilling. Inside is a chessboard and a videotape of a man interviewing villagers in 1991, asking what they saw. Their visions all came true. 2 weeks later, the interviewer is Dee Gibbons, Dyson Frost. He calls them Test Group B. The 1991 blackout was an engineered experiment, and the villagers were lab rats. Deeper in, behind another door, the rest of the experiment. Human remains, the entire village, shot and hidden. Abdi finds his mother's necklace on one of the skeletons, turns his gun on Simon in a grief blackout, and Vogel shoots Abdi dead from behind. The man who was going to unite Somalia dies in the dirt of the village that made him, and his stadium speech dies with him. The show doesn't even let you catch your breath before reminding you that proves the visions can fail. 2 more grenades before the credits. First, Dimitri, certain he has a month to live, offers to father Janice's baby, so that even if he can't exist in the future, Willa can. That's the name Janice has already picked. Don't ask me when this show decided to become quietly devastating, but here we are. Second, Dimitri is packing up the 1991 tape when the static clears, and Dyson Frost looks into the camera and addresses him by name from 1991. Dimitri, says a man recording 2 decades in the past. Did I get your attention? If you're enjoying this one, hit subscribe. We cover complete stories like this every week. Now, about that tape. Frost's tape turns out to be a full video message, and it rewrites the rules of the entire show. Dyson Frost hasn't had one flash forward. He's had hundreds. He's been engineering them since the 80s, peeking down the branching corridors of the future over and over. And in most of those futures, he dies on March 15th, the same day as Dimitri. His words, their fates are on a collision course. Mark goes at Frost through the man's one love, chess. Buried in the moves of a recorded game, he finds an encoded phone number. He dials it. An answering machine picks up Frost's voice, recorded who knows when, saying, "Well done, leave your message." This man left a voicemail box for an FBI agent he knew would crack his puzzle years later. The arrogance is almost admirable. The White Queen from the doll factory, the chess game on the screen, this episode's title. It's all been one long game with Frost playing white. The mole hunt finally pays off too. A bug turns up in Mark's keyboard, the office turns on itself, and the traitor is revealed as Marcy Turoff, a background agent who's been in the bullpen since the start. She shoots her way toward a getaway motorcycle. Janice guns the bike down mid-escape, and Marcy gets tackled and cuffed. Mystery solved. Mole caught. Everyone relax. Then the show drops the hammer. Janice, hero of the hour, has a private conversation with Simon and tells him the message he sent by killing Uncle Teddy has been received. Janice Hawk is a second mole. Even Simon is stunned and tells her not one person in that office would suspect her. He's right. We didn't either. The woman carrying the show's most hopeful storyline has been working for the other side the whole time. In the margins, Bryce kisses Nicole outside a sushi restaurant, and the camera pans to the window to show Keiko sitting inside, feet away, having a drink with her new boss. Keiko has been going to that restaurant every single day, hoping to find Bryce. The one day she's there having fun, he's outside kissing someone else. The next day, immigration raids her workplace, and she's taken into ICE custody. This show treats its sweetest storyline like a piñata. A flashback opens on Mark welcoming a class of rookie agents, including Dimitri and Al, who swap partner assignments, which is how Dimitri ended up with Mark. Dimitri also once turned down a dinner invitation from a defense attorney named Zoe, with the words, "No chance he'd ever go out with her." The show enjoys its little ironies. In the present, Marcy gives up almost nothing except a parting shot for Dimitri. She doesn't know where Mark's gun went, but she knows he dies in Los Angeles. Then the gun announces itself. A homeless man turns up murdered with it, and witnesses say the victim told his killer, "I knew it would be you, I just didn't want to believe." Hold on to that line. It belongs to a thread you haven't met yet. Dimitri, staring down March 15th, makes the sanest decision anyone makes all season. Marry Zoe tomorrow, fly to Hawaii, and simply not be in Los Angeles until the date passes. Geography as destiny repellent. The night before the wedding, Janice tells him she's pregnant. Willa is on the way, and on the wedding morning, Dyson Frost pistol whips Dimitri and dumps him in the backseat of a blue sedan. The groom never makes it to the church. Frost has him. The Jericho thread goes federal. Vice President Clemente quietly commissions Wadek to investigate the contractor based on her own vision, and Wadek cuts a deal with Aaron, firepower, and a ride into Afghanistan in exchange for everything he knows, with the explicit caveat that if it goes wrong, Aaron's on his own. Aaron takes the deal before Wadek finishes the sentence, and the Olivia and Lloyd slow disaster reaches its tipping point through, of all people, the kids. Charlie and Dylan conspire to arrange a playdate at the park, dragging their oblivious parents together. That night, Olivia shows up at Lloyd's door to say thank you, and they both finally admit the feelings from the visions are real right now, not just in April. She kisses him. The future didn't even have to push, it just waited, which makes the final scene hit even harder. Olivia's working a booth at Charlie's school carnival when Mark calls. Dimitri is missing. She turns around, and Charlie's gone too. Cut to a bench, where a little girl girl eats cotton candy as a tall man sits down beside her and greets her by name. Dyson Frost has Charlie. The best episode of the series. Let's go. Cold open, 6 months before the blackout. A conspiracy fixer named Lucas Hellinger walks Alda Herzog, yes, our cryptic prisoner from way back, into Frost's hideout, telling her that if Frost gets unmanageable, she may have to take care of him. Frost's floor is covered in dominoes, all black except one white line. His escape path, he explains. He's built the rings, he runs monitoring stations, he invented something called the Raven River experiments, and he secretly records Hellinger's kill order and plays it back to their faces, because Dyson Frost has seen more futures than anyone alive and trusts exactly none of them. In the present, Dimitri wakes up strapped to a chair with an automated rifle aimed at his chest, rigged to a timer, motion sensors ready to fire early if he moves. Behind him, Frost's version of the Mosaic wall, a hand-drawn map of every possible future, built by a man who's visited thousands of them. Frost calls it his garden of forking paths, and he explains the situation with the patience of a man discussing weather. In most futures, Dimitri kills him, so Dimitri stays in the chair as insurance. Frost won't pull the trigger himself. He just sets the timer and walks away, telling him he honestly has no idea what will happen. Hostage-taking by a man who outsources his decisions to probability. Frost's ransom went through Charlie, who's returned safe with a picture, Oedipus and the Sphinx, with instructions on the back. Union Station, main concourse, March 15th noon. Mark plays Frost's game through a burner phone in a kid's backpack, ditches his own backup in a staged escape Frost planned for him, and meets the man on a dirt road in Antelope Valley. Frost orders Mark to cuff himself. Mark takes a casual sip from his water bottle and spits it into Frost's eyes. It's gasoline. Mark Benford packed a decoy water bottle full of gasoline. The man got suspended for Hong Kong, and somehow this is the more reasonable operation. Frost, restrained, gives up almost nothing except one riddle. In the end, you're going to be saved by the lady you see every day. Then, just as he's about to spill something real, a sniper round takes him down. Alda, on a motorcycle, finishing the job Hellinger flagged 6 months ago, muttering, "Not today, Mark." Frost dies with the season's defining epitaph, "I did what I did for a reason." Mark pieces together Dimitri's location from Frost's briefcase and the GPS history in his rental car. Building 7, matching intel Zoe squeezed out of Alda's deposition before the escape. He finds Dimitri in the chair with minutes left, can't block the gun, can't disarm it, and then remembers the one weird detail from Charlie's account. Frost mentioned the Dr. Seuss book, "One fish, two fish. Red wire, blue wire, like the fish." Mark pulls them, muscles the rifle's aim up inch by inch, and when the timer hits 0, the shot goes over Dimitri's shoulder. March 15th comes, and Dimitri stays alive. The first big domino of fate, knocked over on purpose. Dimitri stands up, triggers a sprinkler system, and Frost's entire hand-drawn garden of futures washes off the wall. All that knowledge, gone in 30 seconds of water damage. Except Mark saw the top of the wall first, where every path converged on a single line. December 12th, 2016. The end. The show will be canceled before anyone finds out what that means. And I think about it more than I should. One more thing. A gentle, strange man named Gabriel orders Olivia's coffee for her before she can. Exactly right. And tells her he's stood in this line with her many times before. He rambles about Raven River, tells her the dominoes are falling, and vanishes. Remember Gabriel. He's the show's last great idea. Janice backstory time. And it's a hall of mirrors. 2 years before the blackout, a headhunter named Lita recruits her for, quote, multitasking, which turns out to mean spying on the FBI for a shadowy organization, with a pet store as her dead drop. She buys an aquarium so she has an excuse to visit every couple of months. But rewind further, because before Lita ever approached her, CIA man Marshall Vogel got there first, warning Janice that someone would try to recruit her and asking her to take the offer and play double agent. So Janice is a mole pretending to be a mole, reporting to Vogel while the conspiracy thinks she reports to them. Triple-decker espionage sandwich, and she's been holding it together while pregnant and recovering from a gunshot wound. Respect. Gabriel, meanwhile, escalates from coffee guy to walking impossibility. He turns up inside the Benford living room, reciting details from Olivia's past down to the color of her dress at a Pixies concert. She panics and he flees, but not before warning her not to buy coffee today from the man who looks like Mr. Clean. At the hospital, a car has crashed into the coffee stand, and the bald owner is presumably dead under it. Olivia digs out old photo albums and finds him, a younger Gabriel, in the background of her actual memories. At a wedding reception, at the concert, he's been following her whole life. The explanation is the Raven River reveal, and it's the show's eeriest hour. Olivia and Vrede trace it to a shuttered Arizona hospital, where Gabriel finds them and lays it out. He was a patient, a savant with a perfect memory, and he and others were put to sleep over and over, given flash forward after flash forward and made to write down every detail. Engineered visions, run on institutionalized people who couldn't refuse, overseen by Dyson Frost. When Vrita tells him Frost is dead, Gabriel just says, "The early worm catches the bird," which is either savant wordplay or the best line in the show, possibly both. And then Gabriel tells Olivia the thing she least wants to hear. In his many futures, he saw her at Harvard. They were friends there. She's supposed to be with Lloyd. She's going the wrong way, and she has to be there for things to come because she's a piece of a puzzle that can't be solved without her. Olivia has spent the season fighting the future like it's a temptation. Gabriel reframes it as a duty. That's so much worse. The episode closes on Janice's spy life curdling. Her handlers have new orders for her. Kill someone. And when the target's name eventually surfaces, it's going to make her whole double life painfully personal. We finally see Blackout Day from inside the machine. October 6, 2009. Lloyd and Simon are running final prep on the accelerator when Simon gets the call that his father has died and leaves, which we now know was the conspiracy clearing him off the premises and into that stadium seat. The launch fires, and on the monitors, a wave spreads across the Earth, and then meets a second wave coming from somewhere else. Two waves, the experiment and something other. They collide, and everyone in the control room hits the floor. Whatever Frost's people were doing, NLAP gave it a partner. In the present, the conspiracy tightens its grip on Simon. They parade his kidnapped sister Annabelle in front of him on a bridge, just long enough for her to deliver their demand. They want Simon to recover the seventh ring. Remember the case with 6 rings and a man complaining there should be 7? That's the ring Simon wore in the stadium, the same ring Flosso demanded back in that tunnel. Now the conspiracy needs it again, and Simon is the errand boy. When Simon tries to trace the van's plate quietly, the analyst rats him out to Mark instead, and the walls start closing in. Simon finds Lloyd in a parking lot, thanks him sincerely for years of help, and disappears. Mark rescues Annabelle unharmed, and she tells him the part that matters. The conspiracy is planning to have Simon cause another blackout, and then the FBI reruns the stadium footage with fresh eyes and lands on it at last. Simon is suspect 0. The audience has known for 7 episodes. Watching the characters catch up is agony in the best way. Meanwhile, the show spends its case of the week on the cruelest idea in its arsenal: a ghost. One of the people who saw nothing in their flash forward lives past the date Mosaic predicted for his death, and then turns up murdered, poisoned in a way that mimics the death his vision data foretold. Fiona Banks flies in, and the pattern points at someone correcting the timeline by hand, restoring the universe's balance one murder at a time. The trail leads back to Jeff Slingerland, the blue hand teacher from episode 7, who now sees himself as Fate's repairman. Dimitri stops him from running down his next target with a car. The target is Celia, the woman Al Guff died to save, nearly killed anyway by a man playing Destiny's understudy, and in the chaos she's critically injured anyway by a fleeing collision. The show looks you in the eye and asks if Al changed anything at all. It doesn't answer. The light in this episode is blinding though. Bryce gets scan results back. His cancer is in remission. The man who started this story with a gun in his hand on a pier gets handed his life back in a hallway, and he sprints off to tell Nicole and kisses her before she can speak, which is a problem because the thing she was about to say is that she's found Keiko, who is sitting in an ICE detention facility right now. April 28th, 2010. One day left. The whole world holds its breath, and the show starts sprinting. The conspiracy burns Simon publicly, leaking their own footage of Suspect 0 to a news channel from an angle the FBI never had. Within hours, every screen in America knows his face. Then they honey trap him. Lita, Janice's old recruiter, keeps him occupied in a motel room until Lucas Hellinger walks in. Hellinger, the man Gabriel's sketch identifies as Big Guy, the leader of the whole operation, and he wants Simon working for the blackout machine again. Janice's 3-way life finally detonates. Her handler's kill order has a name on it now, Mark Benford. She reports it to Vogel, who tells her to keep her cover and feed them something. So she offers up Gabriel's transport route. The FBI turns it into a sting with Mark posing as Gabriel, and the trap works. The Bureau rolls up the attackers, squeezes them for the conspiracy's base, and captures Hellinger himself, though not before he wipes his files. And in the wreckage, Mark confronts Janice. He knows she's a mole. She comes clean, Vogel, the CIA, all of it, and asks for one mercy, to tell Dimitri herself. Dimitri takes it the way you'd expect from a man who just learned the mother of his child has been lying to literally everyone for years. In Afghanistan, Aaron's vision starts assembling itself in real time. He and Kamir, the medic from his flash, track Tracy to an off-the-books Jericho outpost called Joshua Base. Aaron uploads photos to Wiedek, who phones the actual president to inform him he'll be exposing it, then ignores his own advice about waiting for backup and hits the base with Kamir, guns out. They get Tracy back. She's badly hurt, and they carry her to a cave, the exact cave from Aaron's vision. The future he's been praying for and the future he's been dreading turn out to be the same place, and the closer. Janice comes home to find Simon Campos sitting in her apartment, pointing a gun at her, telling her he needs her help. One day to go. Simon's pitch to Janice, at gunpoint, is almost sympathetic. He wants to get back into NLAP to take revenge on the people who caused the blackout and burned his life down. Dimitri walks in on the standoff, there's a scuffle, and Janice takes a blow to the abdomen, restraining Simon, which, given the pregnancy, stops your heart for a second. In Afghanistan, the show plays its cruelest card. Aaron interrogates a captured Jericho operator and gets the full truth at last. The villagers Tracy saw massacred weren't massacred at all. They were unconscious because Jericho was running a blackout test of its own. The reason they hunted Tracy across the world is that she stayed awake inside the test radius, 1 kilometer out, and they need to know why. Tracy, like Simon, like the rings, is immune somehow, and a private military company wants to dissect the reason. And while Aaron is getting the answer, Tracy dies of her wounds. The daughter who came back from the dead dies in a cave with her father standing right there. The show has 1 episode left, and it spends this one taking Aaron's miracle away. Hellinger, in custody, goes full oracle on Mark. There are many paths through tomorrow, he says, but they all end the same way. Mark Benford dead in his office tonight. Mark, to his credit, keeps working anyway, chasing a lead connecting the word tachyon to a data warehousing company. But you can see the date pressing down on him. Everyone in the world knows what tomorrow is. Half of them saw it already, and Dimitri, fresh off surviving his own death date, meets Zoe at the airport for Hawaii and tells her the truth about Janice's baby. Zoe gets on the plane with her parents and tells him not to come. He changed his future, and it cost him the future he wanted. April 29, 2010, the day everyone saw. The finale runs every storyline at once, so keep up, we're moving fast. Afghanistan first, because the show owes Aaron. He refuses to accept Tracy's death, hounds Kamir to keep working on her, and Kamir finds a pulse. She's alive, barely, but alive, in the cave from the vision, with Kamir treating her exactly as Aaron foresaw. The most faithful man on the show gets the future he believed in, almost beat for beat. Bryce's vision fights its way to the finish line too. He talks and bribes his way into information at Keiko's detention facility, $100 and a love story for a romance reader named Francine. Meanwhile, at the airport, Keiko's mother, the same woman who lied to Bryce's face in Tokyo, has a change of heart and causes a scene to distract the ICE officers so her daughter can run. Keiko runs straight to the sushi restaurant from her vision. Bryce is inside. The booth, the hands, the smiles, the whole vision, recreated in the flesh by 2 people who crossed an ocean on faith. They're holding hands when the world ends again. We'll get there. Nicole's vision arrives the same night, twisted sideways. Despondent over Bryce, she swerves to avoid a collision on a dark road and crashes through a fence into a lake. The drowning, the water, the punishment she's feared for 20 episodes. And then hands pull her out. A man named Ed, who she'd seen around the hospital, explains that in his flash forward, he saw himself rescuing her. Her vision of being drowned was someone else's vision of saving her life, the same 2 minutes seen from opposite shores. That reframe is the show's whole thesis in one image, and it's gorgeous. Up in Palo Alto, the heist. Janice fakes a pregnancy emergency to distract NLAP security while Dimitri and Simon slip inside. The distraction lands her in an actual hospital, where a doctor runs an ultrasound and announces the baby is perfectly healthy and a boy. A boy. Janice saw a daughter. The future is already off script, and her relief and grief land in the same breath. Inside NLAP, Simon hands his alpha ring to Dimitri as a show of good faith and starts working the computers because the conspiracy is powering up the accelerator remotely. He can't stop it in time. A second global blackout is coming, in minutes. And Dimitri No, the man who saw nothing the first time, the man who spent the entire season being told he had no future, takes the one object on Earth that would keep him awake through it and hands the ring back to Simon. He wants his flash forward. He wants to see something, anything, on the other side of all this. After 22 episodes of running from the dark, Dimitri chooses to close his eyes. At the Benford house, the last vision assembles itself. Lloyd needs to be in Olivia's house at 10 o'clock because his flash had him there discovering something that matters. Olivia agrees to recreate it, and the formula from his vision, the one he believed he'd written on her bedroom mirror, gets written there in lipstick by Dylan, who memorized it earlier that day. Lloyd realizes he never wrote it at all. His son did. The vision was always a loop completing itself. Staring at it, with a text from Simon as the last puzzle piece, he cracks it. The tachyon constant isn't a number, it's a wave. He calls Mark with the news, and with it, the realization of when the next blackout lands. And Mark. Oh, Mark. The man starts the most important day in human history in a jail cell, drunk, after a bar fight. The Vision wins that one, let's be honest. It always had his number. Wadek bails him out and puts Aaron on the phone, sponsor and friend, patching him back together one more time from a cave in Afghanistan. Then the night goes insane. Bombs are discovered inside the FBI building. Everyone evacuates. Vogel finally tells Mark what his own flash-forward was. He's the man Charlie heard saying Mark Benford is dead. Every road sign points the same direction, and Mark runs back into the building anyway. Inside, with Lloyd's wave on one ear and Gabriel's sketch of the Mosaic wall in his hands, Mark restrings his board to match the savant's drawing, and the geometry of the pins gives him the answer. The next global blackout hits at 10:14 p.m. tonight, April 29th. The Vision date was a warning label for the next event. Then the masked men come. The tattooed gunman from his Vision, pouring into the building dressed as law enforcement, killing agents as they sweep the floors. The exact scene Mark saw in the very first episode, red lasers and all, playing out around him in real time, on the night he always knew it would. Wedek takes cover in a bathroom, exactly as his flash showed him, and kills the gunman who walks in, which means even the toilet vision came true. And somehow, it's the most satisfying payoff in the finale. Mark fights his way through, phones the blackout timeout to Wedek, and Wedek relays it to President Segovia, who gets an emergency warning broadcast out to the planet. The world gets minutes of notice. People lie down. The warning saves untold lives, and it exists because Mark Benford would not stop picking at his 30 seconds of drunken memory. At 10:14 p.m., it happens. The second global blackout. The world goes down again, but this time the visions are strange. Different people see different times. Some see multiple futures. Bryce and Keiko go under holding hands. Janice collapses in her hospital bed, and Lita, awake, wearing an alpha ring, calmly wheels her unconscious body away to who knows where. Dimitri blacks out inside NLAP, finally dreaming forward. And Charlie Benford, the little girl who dreamt there were no more good days, sees herself as a teenager years from now, telling an unknown man they found him. Found who? We see Mark in the burning FBI building, leaping toward a rescue helicopter as the blackout takes him mid-jump. The building explodes. Cut to black. Series over. Forever. They found him. All these years later, that sentence still has no object. So let's talk about the ending FlashForward never got. A BC canceled it after one season, which means the second blackout, Janice stolen out of a hospital bed, Dimitri's first vision, the December 2016 Doomsday scrawled across Dyson Frost's wall, and a teenage Charlie saying they found him, all of it is permanently frozen mid-sentence. The show built a mythology with a 6-year runway and got cleared for exactly one takeoff. The cliffhanger isn't even the frustrating part. The frustrating part is that the finale was good. The machine was finally humming. Every storyline paid off its vision in a different way. Fulfilled, reversed, dodged, or earned. And that's a thesis statement, not a fluke. Look at the distance these people traveled. Bryce started the season alone on a pier, ready to be done, and ended it holding hands with a woman who crossed the Pacific because she believed in the same 2 minutes he did. Dimitri began as a man with no future, terrified of the dark, and ended by handing away his immunity so he could finally dream like everyone else. Janice went from seeing an impossible pregnancy to carrying it as a double agent, and her last scene is the season's scariest unanswered question. Aaron buried his daughter, met her resurrected, lost her again, and willed her back to a pulse in a cave he'd already seen. Olivia spent the year fighting a future that kept being gentle with her, and Mark, the crappy husband from the note in the safe, lost his marriage, his badge, and his sobriety, and still solved the puzzle in time to warn the entire world. The man who saw himself drinking alone while killers closed in did stand in that office on that night. He just made it mean something different. That's what the show was about in the end. The vision is not the verdict. It's the first move, and you play white. If you want another story that got cut down mid-sentence, there's a video on your screen right now, and I think it'll hurt in the same satisfying way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.